Okay, Intro to Engineering Design. This is going to be Activity 1.3.4, Part 3. What we did last time was we took some sketches and we constrained some simple shapes using a rectangle, and we constrained them to a set of diagonal lines across like this. That was Part 1. In Part 2, we used the rectangular pattern tool to create a rectangular pattern, a linear pattern of triangles, and a circular pattern of pentagons. And in Part 3, what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this shape, and then we're going to use project geometry, and we're also going to use the offset feature to create a few features on the shape like this. And here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to load up Onshape, and I'm going to get to the sketch that we had previously that has our rectangular pattern, has our circular pattern, and our linear pattern all in the same sketch. You don't have to put all of these on the same sketch. In fact, if I were doing it, I would make each feature, if I was doing it outside of the actual like class activity, I would make each feature a separate sketch. That'd be my personal preference, but neither here nor there for the actual class activity. We're going to go into our sketch 1, and we're going to, oh no, I lied. We've already got the sketch 1. We're going to extrude this, and we're going to have to be careful on how we extrude it in Onshape. I'm going to click Extrude, and I'm going to click on the actual surface itself. But if you notice, there's not going to be any thickness that occurs right here. And that's because over in this corner, since we constrained this cut to be inside the corner, it doesn't actually register as a full shape. So in order to actually get this to work, what we're going to have to do is I'm going to go into the top view, and I'm going to deselect this first little V of the triangle, and that's going to actually allow us to have a thickness to our block. So if it doesn't register as a full closed shape, it's not going to work. So do be careful of that, and if it doesn't show up or work for you, make sure you click on that first edge to make sure that it will do what it's supposed to do. I'm going to give it a thickness of 0.25, and it looks good. And to try to get some actual triangle shapes going here, I'm going to deselect these areas of the overlapping triangles. And if I deselect these areas, it's going to give me kind of like a V-shaped pattern, which, I don't know, looks kind of neat. Oops, I just clicked that twice. Wax on, wax off. There it goes. I'm going to go to the corner here. So I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to hit the green check mark, and we're going to have a lot of, we're going to have a rectangular pattern shape, a circular pattern shape in the middle, and those triangle shapes on the outside. Now I want to try to take this and I want to make some extrusions in the pentagons on top, but I've already finished my sketch, so that sketch is gone completely. Onshape does keep a lot of projected geometry already there, so if I create a new sketch and I create a new sketch on the top of this object, I'm going to look in here and I'm going to see, okay, can I use these pentagons using the offset tool? So I'm going to click on offset, and I'm going to try to click on this pentagon and see if I can actually create the offset tool. And it looks like in Onshape, it automatically does project the geometry unless you like specifically tell it not to. So here, if you need to project geometry, so I'm going to go ahead and escape this offset tool. If you need to project the geometry, then there's a button up here that looks like a box, and it says use project or convert. And what it does is if you have a sketch underneath the object and it's not actually showing up, then you can click this button and you can select any geometry that you want to show up on the sketch above. So even if you have a sketch, say like hidden underneath, it will project that geometry up on top so you don't have to recreate it. Onshape does a pretty good job though of making sure that you have everything in terms of projected geometry. It kind of automatically does a lot of those things, but just in case you need it, there's a couple of things that you can do. Okay, so I'm gonna click on the arrow this way, and I don't know, why don't we make it have a how about, let's see, what does the actual activity say? How far do we actually need to? Looks like they want to use a fillet of 0.20 and an offset of 0.1 inches. So I'm going to just change this offset to be 0.1. If I can use the arrow to get it right on the dot, that's fine. There we go. So once you get it where you want it to with the arrow, you can hit enter and it will create that offset. Also to note, you can only create offsets one one closed loop at a time. So if you're going to use the offset button, I can't make all of these at the same time. That's one of the limitations of Onshape is you have to use all of the different shapes one at a time. I'm going to change this down to 0.1 and see if it's got enough room. Oops, went the wrong way. Come on, potato computer, you can do it. All right, so I'm going to just type in 0.1 and pray. Okay, so it looks like I don't even know what I did. I was selecting offset and this random distance came up. Let me try that again. I'm going to do offset and I'm just going to click on the sides. This looks a lot more reasonable. I'm not sure where that other line came from. And then I'm going to shrink it down to 0.1. Here we go. 0.15, 3, 0.1. Oh, 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 oh. There it goes. Okay. And then I'm going to hit enter. And I'm just going to grab one more. So I'm going to say, how about this one? So I'm going to use the offset tool again. And it looks like I haven't hit enter yet. There it goes. So I'm going to use the offset tool again. And I'm going to hit, oh, I don't want that. Escape, offset, pentagon, 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 shrink down to 0.1. It doesn't really matter which 3 you actually do on the assignment. As long as you've got 3 of them done, I think you'll be okay. And then we're going to click enter. Kind of looking at my other one, and it looks like I accidentally got rid of that one too, because apparently this is very small brain for me. I'm going to try this one again. And I may have to shrink that one down because it looks like 0.1 might actually not quite fit. It looks like they kind of go over each other. So I tell you what, I'm going to make this one like a little bit smaller, even though it's probably going to trigger some of you guys. I'm going to make that 0.05, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so that's using the offset tool. Once we get everything that we need ready for the offsets, we can hit the green check mark, and you can see that the offset sketches are still here. I'm going to click the extrude button, and I'm going to extrude the outside border of these objects. So I'm going to click on this one, and this one, and this one, and they'll just come right into place. And I'm going to change this, I don't know, they're sticking out an awful lot. I'm going to change that to like, I don't know, 0.5 or something. Kind of bothers me that they're sticking out that far. So I'm going to click the green check mark, and I'll have some extruded shapes too. There we go, kind of like that. Remember, this guy's going to be a little bit smaller because these overlap. I'm pretty sure my intersecting circle might have been too small on that one, but we'll see how that goes. All right, so I think the last thing that they wanted us to do was I think they wanted us to use a radius of 0.2 for a fillet on the inside. Let's check and see again. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, but good thing I double checked. 0.2 inch fillet to the corners of each of the outside pentagons. So here we go. We're going to use the fillet command, and we might have to kind of use our camera to move around to different parts. So let's see if we can actually kind of move around here. We'll have to kind of go around to each and every one of them. So I'm going to use the fillet button. I'm going to go to the fillet button, make sure that that fillet is 0.2, and I'm going to click on the edge down the bottom. And when I click on the edge down the bottom, it's going to fill it around. Almost kind of looks like it's welded almost. And we're going to fill it around on all of these. And we're going to try our best. It looks like that one on the other side might actually overlap on the other one. That might not be good. So I'm going to click on all these. I'm going to fillet the thin boy last, and I'm going to try to fillet around these parts next. If you run into a spot where the sketch doesn't, like if it overlaps onto a previous sketch, you're going to get an error. So it looks like my circle is too small. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to change my fillet to 0.1. If I change my fillet to 0.1, they hopefully won't start overlapping with each other. And it looks like I have an error on trying to get my extrusion set up. So if you get an error on trying to get like every single one of them done at the same time, my recommendation to you would be to like go ahead and cancel that out and then try to use the fillet command just on one at a time. So I'm going to change that fillet to 0.1 just to make it work on mine. And I'm going to click around. You can see how the fillet's a little bit smaller now. And I'm going to just keep moving around the outside of one pentagon. And then after I click around the outside of all of the sides, I'm going to click the green check mark. So that's going to be my first fillet. You can see how it works all the way through. And then on the second fillet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the fillet command, and I'm going to go around, in 4 different directions. There we go. Click again. This one's going to bother me a little bit, so I'm going to try to click on this and see. Oh no, I don't think that's going to work out so well. And then I'm going to click on the outside, and then I'm going to click the green check mark. And at least I have a fillet that goes around there. The moment of truth. This is a problem. Oh, I made it 0.2. That's, whenever you reset it, make sure that you actually change it. Hey, but you know what? I can go back into fillet 2 and I can right click and then I can hit edit and then I can go back to change the fillet value to 0.1. I do not have to go back in and redo everything. All of these operations are meant to save you time, not hurt you. And then fillet, I'm going to try to do zero point 0.1 again, 0.1 inches all the way around. And we're going to click. This one doesn't seem to want to do it, and I understand why. It's because this fillet is over here on this side, and this part, you can't really put a fillet on a fillet. The on shape is kind of like, nah, bro, I'm not really sure what's going on here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to just make the fillet a little bit smaller. There's a couple of things that we could do, and really what happened was I'm making these fillets way too large, and for the circle that I have constrained. If we look back at our original sketch that we have at the bottom here, this circle needs to be bigger. So why don't we see if we can change that sketch? But I don't want to change it too much because if I do, it'll go into my triangle and hexagon pattern. So I can try to make it just a little bit larger. Let's see if I can change this because I have a dimensional constraint here of 0.5. But if I change that dimensional constraint to, I don't know, let's say 0.75, and hit enter, then the triangle or the hexagons will actually move out. And then I have the green check mark. Everything changes to increase around it. So that's actually a pretty good lesson. If you have things that aren't working out, you can go back into your previous sketches and you can use that to fix some problems that you might have. I'm going to try this again, and if it still doesn't work, then it's time to punch kittens. Let's see here, 0.1 for the fillet. We're going to just kind of make it go around. See, the fillet's actually working now. I'm going to click around like here. We're going to click around like here. We're going to click around like here. And then we're going to hit the green check mark, and then we're good to go. Okay, so minor little hiccup, wasn't too bad, but that's how you use the offset tool and the project geometry tool. And Onshape project geometry isn't going to be nearly as useful as it is in Fusion 360, but I can guarantee you that the offset tool is going to be super useful. Have a great day, and we'll talk next time for part 4.